second naval law in Germany, passed in 1900, envisioned a force of 14 armored cruisers for both service overseas in Germany's colonial empire and as scouts for the main battle fleet in German waters. The naval expansion program was primarily directed against the British Royal Navy, then the world's predominant naval force. Germany's armored cruiser force followed a series of iterative developments based on the cruiser Prince Heinrich, and the Scharnhorst class presented the culminated of the evolutionary development. During the design process for the class, the General Department issued a request for that the new cruisers be capable of fighting in the line of battle, in the event that German battleships were damaged and unable to continue fighting. Up to this point, this had not been a consideration in German armored cruiser construction, and so a significant increase in both firepower and armor protection would be required to accommodate it. This, in turn, required much larger ships, and the Scharnhorst class was accordingly about 2,000 tons heavier than the preceding Rune class. The weight increase secured a doubling of the main battery, a 50% increase in belt armor, and an increase in top speed by more than a knot over the Rune class. The speed increase was achieved by the addition of two boilers that provided 7,100 metric horsepower, more power for the propulsion system. As a result of these improvements, the Scharnhorst class was the first German armored cruiser design that compared favorably to its foreign counterparts. Several other minor changes were introduced, including a strengthening of the territory battery of 8.8 cm or 3.5 inch guns to the level used in contemporary battleships like the Deutschland class. The design staff considered adding a pair of these guns to the conning tower roof abreast of the bridge, but experience with the same armament on the Bartschweg class battleships demonstrated the excessive blast effect interfering with control of the ships, and so these guns were suppressed in the Scharnhorst design. Gneisenau was 474 feet 5 inches long overall, and had a beam of 70 feet 10 inches, and a draft of 27 feet 6 inches. The ship displaced 11,433 long tons normally, and 12,780 long tons at full load. Gneisenau's crew consisted of 38 officers and 726 enlisted men. The ship was powered by 3 triple expansion steam engines, each driving a screw propeller, with steam provided by 18 coal-fired water tube boilers. The boilers were ducted into 4 funnels located amidships. Her propulsion system was rated to produce 26,000 metric horsepower for a top speed of 22.5 knots. She had a cruising radius of 4,800 nautical miles at a speed of 14 knots. Gneisenau's primary armament consisted of 8 21 cm 8.3 inch SKL-40 guns, 4 in twin turrets, 1 fore and 1 aft of the main superstructure on the center line, and the remaining 4 mounted in single casemates in the hull at main deck level abreast the funnels. The secondary armament included 6 15 cm or 5.9 inch SKL-40 guns, also in individual casemates, that were placed a deck below the main battery casemates. Defense against torpedo boats was provided by a battery of 18 8.8 cm 3.5 inch SKL-35 guns, mounted in casemates. She was also equipped with 4 45 cm 17.7 inch submerged torpedo tubes. One was mounted in the bow, 1 on each broadside, and the 4th was placed in the stern. The ship was protected by a 15-centimeter belt of corrupt armor, decreased to 8 centimeters or 3.1 inches forward and aft of the central citadel. She had an armored deck that was 3.5 to 6 centimeters or 1.4 to 2.4 inches thick, with the heavier armor protecting the ship's engine and boiler rooms and ammunition magazines. The centerline gun turret had 17 centimeters or 6.7 inches thick armor size, while the casemate guns received 15 centimeters of armor protection. The casemate secondary battery was protected by a strake of armor that was 13 centimeters or 5.1 inches thick. Gneisenau was the first of 2 members of the Scharnhorst class to be ordered on the 8th of June 1904. She was laid down at the AG Weser shipyard in Bremen on the 28th of December under the yard number 144. A lengthy strike by shipyard workers delayed construction of the vessel, allowing Scharnhorst to be launched first, and thus to be the lead ship of the class. At Gneisenau's launching ceremony on the 14th of June 1906, she was christened Gneisenau in honor of the earlier screw corvette Gneisenau by General Alfred von Schiefeln, the chief of the general staff. The ship was moved to Wilhelmshaven for fitting out and was commissioned into the fleet on the 6th of March 1908, before beginning sea trials on the 26th of March. These lasted until the 12th of July, when Gneisenau joined the 1st Scouting Group, the reconnaissance squadron of the High Seas Fleet. During this period, Captain Spee, or Captain of the Sea, Franz von Hippe, served as the ship's first commanding officer. While serving in the 1st Scouting Group, Gneisenau participated in the normal peacetime training routine with the fleet. She took part in a major fleet cruise in the Atlantic Ocean in company with the battleship squadrons of the High Seas Fleet. Immediately after completing trials, Prince Heinrich had pressed for such a cruise the previous year, arguing that it would prepare the fleet for overseas operations and would break up the monotony of training in German waters. The cruise came at a time that tensions with Britain over the developing ongoing German naval arms race were high, though no incidents occurred as a result. The fleet departed Kiel on the 17th of July, passing through the Kaiser Wilhelm Canal to the North Sea, and continued to the Atlantic. The fleet returned to Germany on the 13th of August. The autumn maneuvers followed from the 27th of August to the 12th of September, after which Hipper was replaced by KZS Cornend Trumler. The year 1909 followed a similar pattern, with 2 more Atlantic cruises, the first in February and March, and the second in July and August. The later voyage included a visit to Spain. Later in the year, Gneisenau and the light cruiser Hamburg escorted Kaiser Wilhelm II aboard his yacht Hochstellen on a visit to Tsar Nicholas II of Russia. Off the coast of Finland, Gneisenau won the Kaiser's shooting prize for excellent shooting among armored cruisers for the 1908 through 1909 training year. The first half of the following year passed uneventfully for Gneisenau, and in July she took part in a fleet cruise to Norway. On the 8th of September, the ship was reassigned to the East Asia Squadron, and Rudolf von Ursula took command of the ship for the deployment. By that time, the British Royal Navy had begun commissioning their new battlecruisers, which significantly outclassed armored cruisers like Gneisenau, but the German High Command decided that the ship could still be used to strengthen Germany's colonial cruiser squadron. On the 10th of November, Gneisenau departed Wilhelmshaven bound for Germany's Xinhai Bay leased territory in China. She stopped in Melling, Spain, while en route for a ceremonial commemorating the men killed when her namesake corvette had been wrecked there on the 16th of December 1900. She then passed through the Mediterranean Sea, transiting the Suez Canal, and while crossing the Indian Ocean, stopped in Colombo, Ceylon. There, she embarked Crown Prince Wilhelm on the 11th of December, who was on tour to British India at the time. Gneisenau carried him to Bombay, where he left the ship. After resuming the voyage to East Asia, Gneisenau rendezvoused with the light cruiser Emden and made stops in Singapore, Hong Kong, and Amoy before arriving in Cornell, the German squadron's home port, on the 14th of March in 1911. There, she rendezvoused with her sister ship Scharnhorst, the flagship of the squadron. On the 7th of April, Gneisenau carried the new ambassador to Japan, Arthur Graf Rex, from Kanku to Yokohama, where she met Scharnhorst, the squadron commander, Rear Admiral Gunther von Konska. Uslar and Scharnhorst captain met the Emperor Meiji. Gneisenau thereafter went on a tour of Japan and Siberian waters, but she was sent back to Cornell during the Adur crisis to prepare for a potential conflict. In September, Conchium shifted his flag to Gneisenau while Scharnhorst was in dry dock for periodic maintenance. On the 10th of October, the Xinhai Revolution against the Qing dynasty broke out, which caused a great deal of tension among Europeans in the country, who recalled the attacks of foreigners during the Boxer Uprising of 1900 to 1901. The rest of the East Asia Squadron was placed on alert to protect German interests, and additional troops were sent to protect the German consulate. But fearing attacks on Europeans did not materialize, and so the East Asia Squadron was not needed. By late November, Scharnhorst was back in service, and Konstantin returned to her. Gneisenau won the Schupfriends again for the 1911 through 1910 to 1911 training year. Gneisenau went to dry dock in Cornell for annual repairs in the first quarter of 1912. On the 13th of April, the ships embarked on a month-long cruise to Japanese waters, returning to Cornell on the 13th of May. In June, Captain of the Sea, William Bernice, revealed Uslar as Gneisenau's commander. Over the course of the 1st through the 4th of August, Gneisenau steamed to Punsun, Korea, where she pulled the KA-PAG steamship Silesia free after it ran aground and escorted it to Nagasaki. In early December, Kornskin was replaced by KADM Maximilian von Spee, who took Scharnhorst and Gneisenau on a tour of the Southwest Pacific, including stops in Amoy, Singapore, and Beverota. The cruise continued into early 1913, and the two cruisers arrived back in Cornell on the 2nd of March, 1913. Gneisenau won the Chiffres for the 1912 through 1913 year again. In April 1913, Gneisenau and Scharnhorst went to Japan, so Spee and the ship's commanders could meet with the new Emperor Tassilo. The vessel then returned to Cornell, where they remained for 7 weeks. In late June, the two cruisers began a cruise through Germany's colonial possessions in the Central Pacific. While in Ronald, On the 21st of July, Spee received word of further unrest in China, while prompting his return to the once-gone roadstead outside Shanghai by the 30th of July. Gneisenau thereafter patrolled the Yellow Sea and visited Port Arthur in October. After the situation calmed, Spee was able to take his ships on a short cruise to Japan, which began on the 11th of November. Scharnhorst and the rest of the squadron returned to Shanghai on the 29th of November before she departed for another trip to Southeast Asia. Stops included Siam, Sumatra, North Borneo, and Xinhai in the Philippines. In June 1914, KZS Julius Markier took command of the ship. Shortly thereafter, Spee embarked on a cruise to German New Guinea. Gneisenau rendezvoused with Scharnhorst in Nagasaki, Japan, where they received a full supply of coal. They then sailed south, arriving in Turk in early July, where they restocked their coal supplies. While en route, they received news of the assassination of Archduke Franz Ferdinand, heir to the throne of Austro-Hungary. On the 17th of July, the East Asia Squadron arrived in Penelope in the Caroline Islands. Here, Spee had access to German radio networks, where he learned of the Austro-Hungarian declaration of war on Serbia and the Russian mobilization. On the 31st of July, word came that the German ultimatum, which demanded the demobilization of Russian armies, was set to expire. Spee ordered his ships to be stripped for war. On the 2nd of August, Kaiser Wilhelm II ordered German mobilization against France and Russia. When World War I broke out, the East Asia Squadron consisted of Scharnhorst, Gneisenau, and the light cruisers Emden, Nürnberg, and Leipzig. At the time, Nürnberg was returning from the west coast of the United States, where Leipzig had just replaced her, and Emden was still in Quedejo. On the 6th of August 1914, Scharnhorst, Gneisenau, and the supply ship Titiana and the Japanese coiler Fukuto Maru were still in Pandopi. Spee had issued orders to recall the light cruisers, which had been dispersed on cruises around the Pacific. Nürnberg joined Spee that day, after which Spee moved his ships to Penguin Island in the Northern Mariana Islands, a German possession in the Central Pacific. Spee left for Penguin in the night without Fukuto Maru to avoid having the Japanese crew betray his movements. All available coilers, supply ships, and passenger liners were ordered to meet the East Asia Squadron in Penguin, and Emden joined the squadron there on the 12th of August. The auxiliary cruiser Prince Intel Frederick joined Spee's ships there as well. On the 13th of August, Commodore Karl von Müller, the captain of the Emden, pursued Spee to detach his ships as a commerce raider. The four cruisers, accompanied by Prince Eitel Frederick and several coilers, then departed Penguin on the 15th of August, bound for Chile. While en route to Equalk Atoll in the Mariana Islands, the next morning, Emden left the formation with one of the coilers. The remaining ships again coaled after their arrival in Equalk on the 20th of August. To keep the German High Command informed, on the 8th of September, Spee detached Nürnberg to Honolulu to send word through neutral countries. Nürnberg returned with news of the Allied capture of German Samoa, which had taken place on the 29th of August. Scharnhorst and Gneisenau sailed to Apia to investigate the situation. Spee had hoped to catch a British or Australian warship by surprise, but upon his arrival on the 14th of September, he found no warships in the harbor. On the 22nd of September, Scharnhorst and the rest of the East Asia Squadron arrived at the French colony of Papeete. The Germans attacked the colony, and in the ensuing Battle of Papeete, they sank the French gunboat Xinhai. The ships came under fire from French shore batteries, but were undamaged. Fearing of mines in the harbor prevented Spee from entering the harbor to seize the coal, which the French had set on fire. On the 12th of October, Gneisenau and the rest of the squadron had reached Easter Island. They then were joined by the light cruisers Dresden and Leipzig, which had sailed from American waters on the 12th and 14th of October, respectively. Leipzig also brought 3 more colonials with her. After a week in the area, the ships had departed for Chile. On the evening of the 26th of October, Gneisenau and the rest of the squadron steamed out of Mas-a-Furro, Chile, and headed eastward, arriving in Vibrissia on the 30th of October. On the 1st of November, Spee learned from Prince Elite Frederick that the British light cruiser HMS Gneisenau had been anchored in Coronel the previous day, so he turned towards the port to try to catch her alone. The British had scant resources to oppose the German squadron off the coast of South America. Rear Admiral Christopher Crandock commanded the armored cruisers HMS Good Hope and Monmouth, Glasgow, and the converted armed merchant cruiser Ontario. The flotilla was reinforced by the elder pre-dreadnought battleship Canopus and the armored cruiser Defense. The latter, however, did not arrive until after the Battle of Coronel. Canopus was left behind by Crandock, who probably left her slow speed would prevent him from bringing the German ships to battle. The East Asia Squadron arrived off Coronel on the 1st of November in the afternoon. To Spee's surprise, he encountered Good Hope, Monmouth, and Ontario in addition to Glasgow. Canopus was still some 300 nautical miles behind with the British colliers. At 1600 hours, 17 minutes, Glasgow spotted the German ships. Crandock formed a line of battle with Good Hope in the lead, followed by Monmouth, Glasgow, and Ontario in the rear. Spee decided to hold off engaging until the sun had set more, at which point the British ships would be silhouetted by the sun, while his own ships would be obscured against the coast behind them. Spee turned his ships on a course nearly parallel to Crandock's ships, slowly closing the range. Crandock realized the uselessness of Ontario and the line of battle and detached her. Heavy seas made working the casemate guns in both sides' armored cruisers difficult. By 1800 hours, 7 minutes, the distance between the two squadrons had fallen to 13,500 meters, and at 1800 hours, 37 minutes, Spee ordered his ships to open fire, by which time the range had dropped to 10,400 meters. Each ship engaged their opposite in the British line, Gneisenau's target being Monmouth. Gneisenau struck Monmouth with her third salvo, one shell hitting her forward turret, blowing the roof off and starting a fire. Gneisenau fired primarily armor-piercing shells and scored numerous hits, knocking out many of Monmouth's guns. By 1850, Monmouth had been badly damaged by Gneisenau, and she left out of line. Gneisenau therefore joined Scharnhorst in battling Good Hope. At around that time, Gneisenau received a hit that struck a rear turret, but did not penetrate the armor, instead exploding outside and setting fire to life jackets stored there. Though the crew quickly suppressed the blaze. At the same time, Nürnberg closed to point-blank range of Monmouth and poured shells into her. At 1923, Good Hope's guns fell silent, following 2 large explosions. The German gunners ceased fire shortly thereafter. Good Hope disappeared into the darkness. Spee ordered his light cruisers to close with his battered opponents and finish them off with torpedoes, while he took Scharnhorst and Gneisenau further south to get out of the way. Glasgow was forced to abandon Monmouth after 1920 when the German light cruisers approached, before fleeing south and meeting with Canpus. A squall prevented the Germans from discovering Monmouth, but she eventually capsized and sank at 2018. More than 1,600 men were killed in the sinking of the 2 armored cruisers, including Craddock. German losses were negligible. Gneisenau had been hit 4 times, but was not significantly damaged, and suffered only 2 crewmen lightly injured. However, the German ships had expended over 40% of the ammunition supply. After the battle, Spee took his ships north to Vaspierto, since Chile was neutral. Only 3 ships could enter the port at a time. Spee took Gneisenau, Scharnhorst, and Nürnberg in first on the morning of the 3rd of November, leaving Dresden and Leipzig with the coilers at Mas-Farana. In Vaspero, Spee's ships could take on coal while he conferred with the Admiralty staff in Germany to determine the strength of the remaining British forces in the region. The ships remained in the port for only 24 hours, in accordance with the neutrality restrictions, and arrived at Mas-Farana on the 6th of November, where they took on more coal from captured British and French steamers. On the 10th of November, Dresden and Leipzig were detached for a stop in Vaspero, and 5 days later Spee took the rest of the squadron south to St. Quentin Bay in the Gulf of Pensia. On the 18th of November, Dresden and Leipzig met Spee while en route, and the squadron reached St. Quentin Bay 3 days later. There, they took on more coal since the voyage around Cape Horn would be a long one, and it was unclear when they could have another opportunity to coal. Since word of the detached defeat reached London, the Royal Navy set a organized force to hunt down and destroy the East Asia Squadron. To this end, the more powerful battlecruisers, Invincible and Inflexible, were detached from the Grand Fleet and placed under the command of Vice Admiral Denton Strudy. The 2 ships that left at Devonport on the 10th of November en route to the Falkland Islands. They were joined by the armored cruisers Convron, Kent, and Cornwall, the light cruisers Bristol and Glasgow, and Ontario. The force of 8 ships reached the Falklands by the 7th of December, where they immediately coaled. In the meantime, the Spee ships departed at St. Quentin Bay on the 26th of November and rounded at Cape Horn on the 2nd of December. They reached a Canadian bark, Dormino, which had a cargo of 2,500 tons of good quality Candriff coal. Leipzig took the ship under tow, and the following day the ships stopped off at Pitcairn Island. The crews transferred the coal from German to the squadron's coilers. On the morning of the 6th of December, Spee had a conference with the ship commanders aboard Scharnhorst to determine their next course of action. The Germans had received numerous fragmentary and contradictory reports of the British reinforcements in the region. Spee and two other captains favored an attack on the Falklands, while three other commanders, including Mercier, argued that it would be best to bypass the islands and attack British shipping off Argentina. Spee's opinion carried the day, and the squadron departed for the Falklands at 1200 hours. Gneisenau and Nürnberg were delegated for the attack. They approached the Falklands the following morning with the intent of destroying the wireless transmitter there. Observers aboard Gneisenau spotted smoke rising from Port Stanley, but assured it was the British burning their coal stocks to prevent the Germans from seizing them. As they closed on the harbor, 30.5 centimeter or 12-inch shells from Canopus, which had been breached as a guard ship, began to fall around the German ships. Lookouts on the German ships spotted the large tripod mast of battlecruisers, though they are initially believed to be from the battlecruiser HMS Australia. The reports of several enemy warships, combined with fire from Canopus, prompted Spee to break off the attack. The Germans took a southeasterly course at 22 knots after having reformed by 10:45. Spee reformed his line with Gneisenau and Nürnberg ahead, Scharnhorst in the center, and Dresden and Leipzig astern. The fast battlecruisers quickly got up steam and sailed out of the harbor to pursue the East Asia Squadron. Spee realized his armored cruisers could not escape the much faster battlecruisers and ordered the three light cruisers to attempt to break away while he turned about and allowed the British battlecruisers to engage the outgunned Scharnhorst and Gneisenau. Meanwhile, Stee detached his cruisers to pursue the German light cruisers. Invincible opened fire at Scharnhorst with inflexible attacking Gneisenau, and Spee ordered his two armored cruisers to similarly engage their opponents. Spee had taken the lee position. The wind kept his ships swept of smoke, while it improved visibility for his gunners. This forced Sturdy into the windward position and its corresponding worse visibility. Gneisenau quickly scored two hits on her opponent. In response to these hits, Sturdy attempted to widen the distance by turning 2 points to the north. This would place his ships beyond the effective range of the German guns, but keep his opponents within range of his own. Both ships checked their fire for the time being. Gneisenau had been hit twice during the stage of the battle, the first shell striking the aft funnel, killing and wounding several men with the shell splinters. The second shell damaged some of the ship's cutters and penetrated into some cannons amidships. Shell fragments sent from a near miss penetrated into one of the magazines for the 8.8 centimeter guns, flooding it forcing it to be flooded to prevent a fire. Spee countered Sturdy's maneuver by turning it rapidly to the south, which significantly widened the range and temporarily raised the possibility of escaping by nightfall. The maneuver forced Sturdy to turn south as well and pursue at high speed. Given the speed advantage and the clearer weather, the German hope to escape proved to be short-lived. Nevertheless, the maneuver allowed Spee to turn back north, bringing Scharnhorst and Gneisenau close enough to engage with their secondary 15-centimeter guns. Their shooting was so effective that it forced the British to haul away a second time. After resuming the battle, the British gunfire became more accurate, and as the British were firing at very long range, the shells approached plunging fire, which allowed them to penetrate the thin deck armor rather than the thicker belt. Gneisenau took several direct hits during this phase, including a pair of underwater hits that began to flood boiler rooms 1 and 3. Sturdy then turned to port in an attempt to take the leeward position, but Spee countered the turn to retain his favorable position. The maneuver did, however, reverse the order of the ships, so Gneisenau now engaged Invincible. During the reversal, Gneisenau became temporarily obscured by smoke, so the British ships concentrated their fire on Scharnhorst, which suffered severe damage during this phase of the action. Spee and Marker engaged a series of signals to determine the state of each other's vessels. Spee concluded the exchange with a single signal noting that Marker was correct to have opposed the attack on the Falklands. At 15:30, Gneisenau received a major hit that penetrated her starboard engine room and disabled that engine, leaving her with just 2 operational screws. Another hit at 15:45 knocked over her forward funnel, and at 1600 hours, her number 4 boiler room was disabled. At 1600 hours, Spee ordered Gneisenau to attempt to escape, while he reversed course and attempted to launch torpedoes at his pursuers. Damage to the ship's engine and boiler rooms had reduced her speed to 16 knots, however, and so the ship continued to fight on. Gneisenau, nevertheless, could not evade British fire, and around the same time her bridge was hit. 2 more hits followed at 16:15, one passing completely through the ship without detonating, and the other exploding in the main dressing station, killing most of the wounded crew there. At 16:17, Scharnhorst finally capsized the port and sank. The British, their attention now focused on Gneisenau, made no attempt to rescue the crew. By this time, Canvorn joined the fray and contributed her guns to the bombardment. As the range fell to 8,500 meters, heavy fire from the surviving German guns forced the British to turn away again, widening the range to 13,500 meters. During the final phase of the battle, Gneisenau ran out of ammunition and resorted to firing her turning rounds. One of these struck Invincible. 3 more shells struck Gneisenau at around 17:15, 2 of them underwater on the starboard side, and the other on a starboard casemate. The former has caused serious flooding, but the third had little effect, as the gun crew had already been killed by an earlier hit, and the casemate was already on fire. Several more hits followed, and by 17:30, Gneisenau was a burning wreck. She had a severe list to starboard and a smoke pouring from the ship, which came to a stop. At 17:35, Marker ordered the crew to set scuttling charges and gather on the deck, as the ship was unable to continue fighting. The forward gun turret fired a final shell despite Marker's instructions, prompting a return shot from Inflexible that struck the forward dressing station, killing many wounded men. There, at 17:42, the scuttling charges detonated, and the forward torpedo crew launched a torpedo to clear the tube and hasten the flooding. The ship slowly rolled over and sank, but not before allowing some 270 to 300 of the survivors time to escape. Of these men, many died quickly from exposure in the 4 degrees Celsius or 39 Fahrenheit water. A total of 598 men of her crew were killed in the engagement, though boats from Invincible and Inflexible picked up 187 men from Gneisenau, including her executive officer, corvette captain Hans Punchhammer, the highest-ranking German officer to survive the source of German records of the battle. Leipzig and Nürnberg were also sunk. Only Dresden managed to escape, but she was eventually tracked to Juan Farnsden Islands and sunk. The complete destruction of the squadron killed some 2,200 German sailors and officers, including Spee and 2 of his sons. Before we get into the end discussion of this video, I'd like to thank everybody for watching, and I do want to hear you guys' thoughts on the video as a whole before we do get into the end here. please, if you do have any questions, concerns, or just knowledge at this point in time, please do go put that down in the comments. If you guys did enjoy the video, please hit the subscribe button and hit the like button. Now, with that out of the way, going on to the final end of this video, the sheer amount of knowledge that can be found within the SMS Gneisenau and her sister ship, the SMS Scharnhorst, is just phenomenal. These two ships are very, very underrated, I guess you can say. And they're not two ships that you hear about very often, if ever. And they're not even connected to a battle that would actually catch a person's attention, I guess you can say. Now, something that I would like to point out during the video is that not every photo in this video is of the Gneisenau. There is limited numbers of photographs or even illustrations of the SMS Gneisenau. So most of this video did have images of her sister ship, the SMS Scharnhorst, the leader of the class, and that is due to the fact of Scharnhorst is a more predominant armored cruiser that you can find compared to her sister. Although they did meet the same end, sadly, but no matter what, it does hold a spot in history, and a spot in history that is very well unheard of, I guess you can say. Now, moving on from that, what should be taken from this video is that the SMS Gneisenau, although unheard of, played a major role throughout her service career. From the time she was launched to the time she was finally sunk during the Battle of the Falkland Islands. She played a major part in it and is absolutely amazing. Same with her sister ship, the Scharnhorst. Going from there, this video was made to show a broader scale to things. I first heard about this ship on a random Google search. I was interested to see if other ships named Gneisenau, and this ship popped up. This ship's history caught my attention, and this is actually where I first heard about the Battle of the Falkland Islands, was researching this warship. Same with the Battle of Coronel. It was the exact same situation. I never heard of the two battles until I researched the SMS Gneisenau. And I hope that you guys did learn something new as well today while watching this video. I am going on to another thing. I am so sorry to all of you guys who have been waiting for videos. The month of December has just been absolutely hectic, and I do apologize for that. Combined with the new job, me trying to get a home life situation and all that stuff, it's all combining into one, and I'm having troubles. So I'm gonna try my best in order to get everything situated and on course. But with that being said, so this video doesn't drag on for any longer than it really should, I thank everybody for watching. I hope you guys did enjoy it, and I hope you guys learned something today. If you guys have any questions, concerns, or requests, or just information and all, again, please leave those down in the comments below, or you can email me through the email address linked in the description. Something that I don't normally promote here on YouTube anymore, compared to my older videos, the Discord is open to anybody who wants to join. You can find that link down below. Same with my Twitch, although I don't use my Twitch very often anymore. But with that being said, again, I thank everybody for watching. Please hit the like button, and please hit the subscribe and notification bell so that you don't miss out on any future uploads, which should be happening every week now. And with that being said, again, I thank everybody for tuning in, and I will see you all in the next video. Peace out.